Welcome back. Lovely to see you virtually on this hot, sunny Thursday. I am so looking forward to that thunderstorm that's forecast tomorrow morning. I really hope it's a good one. So whether you're in a tiny pokey flat that's all hot, whether you're roasting your socks off in school, whether you're one of those lucky people who's got a huge garden with a paddling pool, I don't know where you're doing this reading video, but it's lovely to be with you virtually. Today we have Mr. Creep the Crook. And for this, Allberg is back with Andre Amstutz. Remember who wrote the funny bones ones, the skeleton ones? On a dark street, there was a dark house. So he illustrated those, but I don't think we'll get a very skeleton-y illustration style here. And the back cover, Mr. Creep the Crook has a foolproof plan. Foolproof plan. We shall see. Nothing is ever a foolproof plan. To escape from jail and eat seaside sandwiches on the beach. No, don't talk about the beach when we're all working hard. Splosh! Look, this must be their escape tunnel through some water. Ouch! Someone's hit their head. Oof! Would you say that's onomatopoeia? Does it sound like what it's explaining? Oof! Is that the sound you make as you're squeezing out of a narrow space? Oof! At least he's the right side of the wall, so he's out of prison. But he soon realises that being bad is not such a good idea and decides to break back into jail. A hilarious Happy Families picture book from Alan Allberg and Andre Amstutz. And oh look, we've met their dog before. Which book was it? It was the train one, wasn't it? Master Track. And Mr. Bun, back on the front cover. Is there anything you can infer, any detectiving you can do from these pictures? Look, what kind of bird is that? A seagull, right? So even though we get seagulls all over Croydon and Purley nowadays, I reckon in this story seagulls stand for the beach. Okay, our date is 1988, so I think this one was written before Master Bun. Some of you will remember which ones are late and which ones are earlier. So you can predict which characters may or may not have been invented, which ones might crop up in here. Okay. Mr. Creep the Crook was a bad man. Is he stealing that shoe? Mrs. Creep the Crook was a bad woman. Is that wool she's stealing? Interesting. Stealing craft materials. Maybe she does need to knit herself a new jumper. That looks pretty scruffy. Miss Creep and Master Creep were bad children. Stealing teddies off babies and laughing about it. Where's your empathy? And Growler Creep was a bad dog. Where is he? Growl. For some of the time, Mr. Creep and his family lived in a secret den. A den is like a kind of little room often where you play or hide. You might make a den in your house behind the sofa with a blanket over the top of the laundry area, a little space for yourself. Look, this one, you can tell it's upstairs because he's coming up through a trapdoor. Maybe it's in the attic of a house. For the rest of the time, they lived in jail. One day, Mr. Creep was sitting in his little jailhouse. He was drinking a cup of jailhouse tea. Is that him down there? Yeah. Oh, it doesn't look too bad, actually. It's quite cosy. And eating a piece of jailhouse cake and planning how to get out. Maybe he's just desperate for some freedom. Here's his plan. Jailhouse, jailer, wall, tunnel, crawling, stolen car, seaside. Seaside holiday plan number 1, foolproof. Here is Mr. Creep's plan. Mrs. Creep was knitting a jailhouse jumper. When she saw the plan, she said, "That's a nice plan. Can we stop at a wool shop?" "And a sweet shop too," the children said. But Mr. Creep shook his head. "No," he said, No change to the plan. It's foolproof. That's a nice plan. There she is, knitting away. It's a joke that prison uniforms often have arrows, and she's kind of knitting an arrow design. Oh, look, she's clearly knitted Miss Creep's dressing gown or dress. Oh, look, and his clothes. Okay. A few weeks later, this happened. As you can see, the plan was foolproof. Well, nearly. Okay, so they're crawling through the escape tunnels. Jailer, jailhouse, wall, bike. Okay, so not a car, a bike. To the beach. Ah, that's one thing you can't control. The weather. The next day, Mr. Creep was sitting on the sand. He was eating a seaside sandwich and drinking a bottle of seaside beer and planning how to get rich quick. See, it's all with hyphens. Get rich quick. This is your moment to predict. Do you think his get rich quick plan will work? Me neither. Here is Mr. Creep's plan. Who to rob is in this column. What to take is this column. Mr. Biff, our old friend, his boxing gloves. Mr. Cosmo, looks like a conjurer, his magic hat. And Mrs. Wobble, her food, our old friend. See if he can actually take something off her without her dropping it on him. That's a very nice plan. Mrs. Creep was being buried in the sand by the children. When she saw the plan, she said, "That's a very nice plan." See how the italics there? Very nice plan. But you forgot the wool shop. Look, here she is with her knitting next to her even on the beach in that lovely carpet bag. Growl. Oh, look, has he still got sausages in his mouth? Has he permanently got sausages in his mouth? Then, a few days later, this happened. Ouch! The Creeps got biffed by Mr. Biff and had their bottoms burned by Mrs. Plug. Don't know Mrs. Plug. Presumably that's one of her power tools. Mr. Cosmo, the conjurer, played a trick on them. Green spots, that's a new one. Mrs. Wobble, the waitress, dropped a jelly on them. They got stung by bees. Yelp! Oh look, that was the bees on the front cover. They got kicked by a horse. Is that Miss Jockey? We haven't done that one yet. And chased by cops. Oh, I'm calling them cops. That's like in America. Okay. By mistake, they also burgled a burglar and he robbed them. And besides all that, it snowed. Oh, I actually feel a bit sorry for them out in the snow. With nothing warm, even in spite of all their badness. Was that a foolproof plan too, Dad? The children said. And Mr. Creep said, no. A few hours later, Mr. Creep was sitting in his secret den. He was drinking a glass of secret water and sticking a secret plaster on his nose. Also, he was dreaming of his cosy jailhouse and planning how to get back in. You can see the emphasis. In. Here is Mr. Creep's plan. Seaside. Getting back in plan. Stolen car, that should do it. Back down under the wall. Wall, jailer, jailhouse, just so you remember, but in reverse. Let me in. Do you think you can hear through the ground? Sound travels. This time it really is a foolproof plan, he said. And it was. Yay! Back in his cosy jailhouse room. Now, as you have seen, Mr. Creep the Crook was a bad man. Mrs. Creep the Crook was a bad woman. Miss Creep and Master Creep were bad children. And Growler Creep was a bad dog. However, most things change as time goes by. So, after a year or two, the Creeps were not quite so bad. Look, Master Creep is shining the other prisoner's shoes. Now, which one is Mrs. Creep and which one is the daughter? Because she looks older, but she's doing sewing, and we know that the mum is very into knitting. don't know if you've been watching The Great British Sewing Bee. I am waiting until later to see the final. Don't spoil it for me. So she's fixing his... And down here we've got the car washing and Mr. Creep washing up. Excellent. And after another year, they were nearly good. And after 6 more months, they were good. At last, they were let out of jail. Oh, look at that fond farewell from the jailer. Excellent. Bag of food to get them started. The next day, Mr. Creep was sitting up in bed. He was drinking a cup of homemade coffee and eating a slice of homemade toast. I'm glad they've been released into a house this time instead of just trying to fend for themselves in the snow. And planning his last plan. Being good. Final plan. Mr. Creep, get a job as a lollipop man. Marvellous. Mrs. Creep, what's her ideal job going to be? Of course, in a wool shop, wool department sales lady. Although that is going to be very tempting. Maybe if she can afford it, she won't steal it. Master and Miss Creep, go to school. Top of class. Growler, fetching the newspaper. Well trained. It's foolproof. It's perfect, Dad. When Mrs. Creep and the children saw the plan, they said, that is the best plan of all. It's perfect, Dad. It's foolproof. And so it was. Oh my goodness, look at that dog. Is he really reformed? Well, nearly. Growl. The end. Would you say growl is onomatopoeia? Can you make it sound like what it is? Growl. Growl. That's a fantastic view of prison rehabilitating people. Okay, new words, new vocabulary. What have we had today? So we were just talking about onomatopoeia. I know in year 3 they've been talking about poems about being caught in a sandstorm, like in the story in Egypt. Right, let's have a bash at spelling that. Can you see? Yep. On, o, mat, o, and then it's got a nice Greeky spelling at the end. P-O-E-I-A. Okay, I'm not really expecting you to remember perfectly how to spell that. Got a top in the middle. It's got a mat hiding there. No, mat. Oh, look, O-P-O. It's like an O sandwich. On, O, mat, O-P-O. Quiz moment. Do you remember there were 2 words in the story I said might be onomatopoeic? Onomatopoeia, that's the adjective, onomatopoeic. There was that oof. Oh, there, see, on the back cover. Splosh. Do you think splosh? If you're splashing around in water today, listen to the noise it makes. Does it sound at all like the word splosh? Ouch. Yeah, that might be onomatopoeic. You might say ouch, like you spell it. Oof. Ooh. Ooh. Is that kind of, do you say that like it sounds, like it actually is? Ooh. Lots of people say sizzle, you know, sausages. Sizzle. Sizzling in a frying pan. Sizzle, that kind of spitting noise they make. And then, of course, we've got the dog. Do you remember his name? Growler. Growl. Is that onomatopoeic? The other word I wanted to pick up on has got 2 sets of double O's in it. We've got fool and then proof. Okay, foolproof. Did it have a hyphen in between? Let's see if we can find talking about that foolproof plan. Yeah, here we go. It's foolproof. So, proof, you might talk about a child-proof lock. If you've got a little toddler, brother or sister, who's always trying to get into the cupboard where you store your cakes and your biscuits and your treats, and you might have a baby-proof, a toddler-proof, that's your little toddler, whee, lock to stop them. So they can't get their little fingers to just squeeze that plastic. Often medicine bottles have child-proof lids, so children can't accidentally unscrew the lid. Have you tried turning it and it clicks instead of actually opening. Cars have got often have child-proof door locks, so that if a child's inside, they can't open the door and fall out. And of course, probably the most famous one, if it's raining, you want to put your waterproof coat on. Or if you're canoeing, you want your waterproof spray deck on your canoe so that the water doesn't come inside your boat. So waterproof means it keeps the water out. Let's do some reasoning and make links between what we do and don't know. So a child-proof lock keeps children out of medicines. A toddler-proof lock keeps toddlers out of treats. Waterproof keeps water out of your boat. So does foolproof mean it keeps fools out of the plan? No, it doesn't. It means fools can't spoil the plan. So think of an oven-proof dish or an oven-proof baking tray that you might cook your dinner in. It goes inside the oven, even though the oven is really hot. The oven doesn't spoil the dish because the dish is oven-proof. So, or you could have microwave-proof. So here it is, sitting on its oven shelf, getting really hot. Exactly. It means even if you're a fool, you can't mess up the plan. So the plan is so strong that it's kind of not even going to be spoiled if you're a fool. So the plan for getting out of prison wasn't quite foolproof because they didn't have a lovely time at the seaside. The plan for getting rich quick wasn't foolproof because they had all those problems. But the plan for getting back into prison was a foolproof plan. And then this one for being good at the end was also foolproof because they did it. Apart from the dog. In the comments, see if you can use some onomatopoeia in a sentence. Can you use an onomatopoeic word? And then, can you use foolproof? Have a great week. Stay safe. Bye.